All right, guys, what happens when mediation fails? Because yes, despite everyone's hope that this case would settle in mediation, it didn't. And so there's multiple routes this case and all other cases have after mediation. The first is that you could go back to mediation. It could be that both of their positions were so entrenched. I wouldn't be surprised if Dakota's asking for more than 50-50 or perhaps asking to just keep it supervised for the time being or to put some sort of reunification plan in place, but maintaining that at most she would be getting 50-50. I could easily see from Taylor's lens her saying, look, this was a bit of a blip. I think depending on what the tests show, what the evaluations with DCFS show, they may end up having a very different analysis. And we're going to get more updates on that in June 1st. But she could say, hey, look, you agreed even after all of this alleged abuse. And the only thing that changed was February. And so I think we should keep the same order. Both actually have pretty good arguments there. And so it's not uncommon when you have a mediation like this to then say, look, we've got our position out. We now need to wait before we go back to mediation, because you could go to mediation multiple times. In fact, I often tell my clients, hey, if you have a mediation that fails, keep in mind we may be mediating for a whole host of reasons, not just to settle. We could be gathering information, we could be learning their perspective, we could be getting feedback from a neutral mediator telling us, hey, look, your position seems a little suspect, right? So it could be that that's some of the positions that were being taken or the options that you'd have there. The second is that, okay, we get to mediation and we decide, I actually had a mediation last week that was really similar to this, where we got them and realized we just didn't have enough information, that we needed to figure out bank balances and we needed to figure out some of these premarital accounts or whatever. In this case, it may be where they say, look, we need to understand each other's incomes because the income certainly will have been changed. So maybe they'll have a vocational assessment. You may have a custody evaluation and say, look, we need to have an evaluator look at and monitor what's happening with them in the children in their own home, psychological testings. We're going to get more information from DCFS. But so if you don't go back to mediation, you can use that time certainly to do more discovery, more fact information. And then finally, you just may end up going to court. These two may just end up in court. While 95+% of cases in the state of Utah do settle in a mediation or outside of court, there are those cases that just need to have an adjudication where they need to put on their evidence, they need to call their witnesses, they need to play the videos, they need to listen to the audios, and then they need to let the judge decide what arrangement would be best forever. So while it's not surprising that mediation failed, and it certainly would feel discouraging for both of these parties because I think they just want it to be over, there's lots of road left for them to travel before a resolution.